from the Pathway Studios in Johnston proper. You are live from the Path.
And you're listening to Live from the Path. We're coming from the Pathway Studios here in Johnston proper.
Yeah, I've been here before.
You don't know what goes on here.
I'm here all the time.
You don't know.
Place.
You don't know what goes on. Okay, here's what we got. I got to get the show moving because we squandered away the prime hours of the day with technical problems.
Classic.
Yeah, which didn't happen until Covington came in here. You know what I'm saying? Like I've had we use that media computer which shows the opening of the show. I haven't had a problem with that literally for 6 years. Now I can't remember the last time we saw Covington, but I mean about that time.
It was
you think,
circa
Mike?
6 years ago.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It probably was, yeah.
I don't believe in coincidences.
Well, just go check the cornerstone of the building. It was right before you guys started building, so...
Yeah, I'm just saying this seems real possible that again the Holy Spirit has done it.
I'm not above taking credit for this.
Okay. All right, so here's what I got on the show this evening. Well, first, so Covington's here.
Yeah.
He sabotaged everything, but he is over there.
He has done good things apart from his saboteur.
Yes. Here's the thing. He released is it fair, Sean, to call it a Christmas song?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
It is definitely intended to be oriented in the direction of Christmas.
Okay. So vying for the Christmas hit of the season.
Yeah, I'd say so.
That's not overselling it.
No.
Okay. Bales.
Yeah.
Bales, what it is. I took a listen. I got a hot off the press copy of this thing at the same time everyone else did.
Pre-release, it was pretty special.
Yeah. And it's very good.
It is good.
I'm excited for you guys to hear it. And so we'll play that song for you, and we'll give Sean a bit of an opportunity to describe the tune and cajole you into perhaps purchasing it.
Yeah, or streaming it for free.
Yeah. I mean, whether because you like the song or you if you're watching the video, you see how good of a dresser he is, and you think to yourself, I want to contribute.
Yeah.
I want to do something positive in someone's life for the Christmas season.
Wait a minute, is there a music video?
There's not a music
Yeah,
video.
but you can imagine when you hear his voice, you think to himself, he could probably use a few bucks, pick up a new pair of pants.
Actually, after you listen to it, imagine him coming around the side of a building with a guitar, troubadour style.
Yeah.
Like as the snow falls, and you watch the main scene happening, but he kind of just like intersperses it like Gilmore Girls style. He just troubadours himself around, and then it turns to like there's snow in his beard.
He's like a bard.
Yes, a bard.
This is true. Actually, I've heard many of Covington's numbers. He is bard-esque.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
Okay.
Have you ever or are currently engaged in smoking like an old man pipe?
I'd love to. My wife would kill me.
That sounds like a maybe.
I am a disciplined ex-smoker.
I understand completely.
Wait, of old man pipes or just in general?
Cigarettes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the thing: is like I don't know what happened to the PR train on the tobacco, but it's way cooler to smoke an old man pipe than it is to smoke cigarettes anyway.
I don't know. I'm not willing to wager on that one.
Okay, he's staying out of the waters.
Here's the deal: I will take up both, and then you guys
You'll
can
tell
judge.
me. And it'll be purely objective. This
Purely
is
scientific.
science.
It'll be a 6-month study.
So I guess I'm the control in this case.
Yeah, I'll send you TikToks of me.
Perfect. That's perfect. No, every time I sort of, we went to South Dakota for our family vacation this year, and we were going through the wall drug.
Yeah. I think everybody in Iowa went to South Dakota this year. I did too. Yeah.
I ran into half of them. They
Yeah,
all
yeah,
went
they
at
were
the same
everywhere.
time. I kept kind of dropping like, I wonder if they sell like carved pipes here or something like that. I think that'd be kind of fun. She'd just look at me and give me the evil eye and
Okay.
well,
It's
maybe
like
we'll look at this here carved buffalo.
Yeah.
I like that.
I've been trying the exact same tact over the last 3 weeks. I've been dropping hints that maybe I should take up a pipe.
Yeah.
And boy, my wife is not grabbing the bait
She's
either.
not.
Really?
I mean,
Yeah.
it speaks of refinement and
Yeah,
discipline.
it does. I kind of actually like the smell of it.
Dan will come over and visit. You get yourself a pipe.
I mean, how am I,
I won't
supposed
smoke
to?
it. I'll just watch you.
How am I supposed to think about things accurately without a pipe? I know. There's all kinds of ideas I'm not coming up with because of my lack of pipe.
Okay, so anyway, that's we're going to do Covington. That's item 1 on the docket.
Okay.
2, Mike's got some Pope style preview on the Pope style, Mike.
It's fair.
Ooh.
It's fair.
Fear.
I'm scared.
Yeah.
Okay. 3. We got into a conversation just before the show started about Nehemiah.
Yeah.
But there was something else.
It had elements of beard pulling, toleration of things, unity amongst the church or God's. We'll call it God's people. Unity amongst God's people.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna try to get to that.
Okay.
Pulling beards, bringing people together.
Yeah. When unity fails, it's beard pulling.
It's beard time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And then we'll do some advice. Oh, I may have an article. I'm not sure. I've been debating whether I care to bring this up or not because the content of the article is not really what I want to care about, but it's what people get involved in. But it's the possibility of what you're being with the type of information you're getting and how you probably need to take it easy with it. So we'll see. If we have time for that, we'll do it. If not, I might just let it go. The Spirit might say, look, Ben, this is dumb. You don't want to bring this up. Okay. And then we'll do advice on Dear Life from the Path, and we'll cut it out.
That sounds good.
Okay, good. Also, just for context, and I decided I should start doing a play-by-play. Like if you're ever listen to a football game on the radio, they tell you what's going on. They say, look, the Cyclones got the ball. They're driving from left to right. Okay, so they give you some context. So here, just so you know, starting from left to right, I got Sean Covington, Dan Hudson, Nathaniel Carson, Mike Foost, and then I stand in the middle.
Yeah.
So there you go. If that helps how you're thinking about the home game, that's what the layout of the studio
So I'm
is.
kind of on the 50-yard line.
Yeah. Dan's in the center.
If I had to take the temperature of the room on this pipe smoking, though, I mean, where would you say we're at?
Be more specific. Like, am I for you committing to smoking a pipe full time or just picking up casually?
Casually pipe smoking.
Yeah, I'm all in.
I have an addictive personality. It's something to keep in the back of your mind.
Yeah, but are you going to give up other addictions so you can do the pipe?
No.
No, I can't support it.
Just piling on.
I think you can trade out. Here's the deal. You can swap out marijuana for crack cocaine, and you can switch to pipes instead of cigarettes. But I can't have you. It can't be additive. You can't say I'm going to do crack and marijuana.
I'm not currently engaged in the cigarettes, but I do. I mean, what if I drink? I drink a lot of coffee.
Are you just saying that for the crowd?
No.
Like you don't have any smokes in your truck right now? In the gas tank?
I might have some.
Okay. That's what I thought.
I'm not sure where they are though. That's how.
Having them is not the same thing as smoking them, sir.
That's how familiar I am with them.
Security blanket.
What that says to me is Covington's got some in his attic.
No, not anymore.
I smoked them.
But okay. I did carry a pack for a long time after I stopped smoking. I don't know. It was a dumb idea.
Like you just couldn't. Like you weren't smoking them, but
I
you just
kept
kept
waiting for the urge to come back.
Yeah.
Wait, and it didn't come back?
It's a miracle. I shouldn't tell you because it's not fair.
What do you mean? Hit me. Okay, now you got to say it. You got to hit us with it.
What do you want?
What do you mean?
You want the lowdown on
whatever
how I stopped
was the
smoking?
miracle.
Yeah.
Whatever wasn't fair.
That's the interesting part.
I got incredibly vomitous. I barfed my guts out for. It's more than that. I had been sick for several days, and I was heavy laden with anxiety because I had believed that I would have an opportunity to play with somebody in town that I thought was going to be profitable for me to play with.
Yeah.
And I was excited about it, and then I got sick. I had like this chest cold that sort of had like a flu feeling to it, and I couldn't do it, so I was all wound up about it. Anyway, long story short, I went to bed super early, and of course when you're super sick, especially with like a chest cold, smoking, it's a necessary evil, but it's not an enjoyable one.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have a cigarette before I went to bed, and it was quite early. And I should preface this by saying I had attempted to quit smoking by various means many times prior to this.
How long had you been a smoker up to this point?
Probably smoked for 14 years.
Okay. So a good decade and a half.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And it was probably around at the rate of about a pack a day at that point, maybe a little less.
This all sounds familiar to me.
Yeah. I mean, Lucky Strikes or Virginia Slims.
Pass. So anyway,
It was totally Virginia. Everybody admits to Lucky's.
it was the sale of choice. So it was usually like Parliaments, Marlboro Lights, Camel Lights, whatever was
Today's
on sale.
American Spirit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was never on sale.
No.
That's premium stuff. But I got to bed super early, and then I woke up in the middle of the night, and my fever had broke. I thought, oh, okay, maybe I'll be able to go to work tomorrow morning, set my alarm, get up at regular time, fix myself a pot of coffee, and set outside for my regular morning cigarette. Well, I sit down on the step, and I smoke that thing, and I hadn't had a cigarette in quite a while. And I stood up, after smoking it, and I felt very dizzy. And I thought, wow, that's what you get. And a little morning buzz there. And then I walked inside, and it got worse. And I made it to the sink, and it was as bad as I had ever felt. And barfed my guts out for 25 minutes probably, sweating profusely. And I never smoked after that.
That was it.
Wow.
That is an awesome story.
That's almost to the T how my dad quit smoking back in the early 70s and became a vigilant ex-smoker.
Sure.
So I always kind of fantasized that that's how it would be. And
boy, howdy, did it come riding up on a stallion. Yeah. Bonus.
A big green one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
Now, I mean, just for context, like, have you been like actively trying to quit around that time?
Can't remember. I can't answer that. I will say that, like I said, over the years, especially since my kids were born, it just felt like something I needed to do. I had a lot of guilt about it. As a worship leader, I recognized at one point that I was comfortable letting church start late so that I could have a cigarette.
Right.
Yeah.
And it didn't occur to me for quite a while that was its own form of idolatry. I put myself and my comfort and my entertainment and whatever else you want to call it in front of starting church at a decent, respectable time. I'm not saying I left him hanging for 10 minutes, but like 2 minutes didn't bother me. Anyways, it felt irresponsible for me to stand in front of the church smoking and then go up and lead worship. And we could debate about freedom in Christ all you want. At that time, to me, it felt very irresponsible, and I felt a lot of guilt about it.
Yeah.
So I tried to quit through like accountability groups, American Lung Association, Wellbutrin, the NICRA, whatever.
You did the ringer, really. You went through all the options.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Cold turkey was never one of my favorites. I was always like a cut down kind of guy, but cut down kind of guy only lasts for a little while, and then it turns into a stressful situation and turns into you're back to normal.
Right.
Anywho, so yeah, that's kind of the background to that.
That's a good story.
Yeah, that is a good story.
I like that.
And so, but your hesitation to tell it's not really a strategy. If someone else is going, hey, what do I do? And like barf at the sink.
Yeah.
Like that may or may not.
That's true.
It's not only that, it on a certain level diminishes the effort that somebody is trying to put into quitting smoking.
Right.
I don't want to gloat.
Because it's a struggle. I mean, it's a struggle for most people.
I have
and that yours got to get put away with a one and done act.
Yeah.
I can see that as hard to take in. But that's a holistic approach to go, look, man, I'll tell you the story, but I need you to realize it's not a measure of your success. Based on you didn't vomit at the sink, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And before I tell anybody that I just quit cold turkey like that, I want them to know that I tried to quit probably 12 times before that.
Right, sure.
And just failed abysmally.
Yeah.
So it was really a grace from God. And so there have been times, we're talking about this pipe thing. I do not even remotely resent that my wife is like, you just can't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Because like I fully recognize that for me to pick up a pipe and start smoking it would be equivalent to me winning the lottery, getting paid in one dime, in one coin, and then standing over a sewer grate and flipping it. I might catch it 10 times, I might catch it 20 times, but someday I'm going to drop that coin. What kind of idiot would I be?
Yeah, there's no reason for it.
To have given up something of such value.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, of all the types of things people struggle with, like, you got to know who you are, and you got to know where you came from. And like, back to the notion of freedom in Christ, some people might be able to do a pipe. If that ain't you, you got to know that ain't you.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot when we talk about like those XXX church guys or guys that can go hang out at adult entertainment conventions, right?
And
like,
not get all triggered.
Right?
Yeah.
There's people that can go. There's people that cannot go. And it's cool if you're not one of those people. It's best you stay at the pool. There's no you're not. It's not a martyrdom thing, right?
I'm not sure the pool is the best place, actually. Maybe the buffet.
Yeah, just stay out. Just stay out of there. Stay where you don't belong. And like and here's the thing: is like you have freedom in Christ not to put yourself in a situation you shouldn't be in. That's legit. That's a legit freedom. And I don't find the Holy Spirit shoving people in places they don't want to go or they don't belong being in. So
Yeah.
that's a good point.
All right. Well, you're listening live from the path. That was How to Stop Smoking Definitively by Sean Covington.
Not the barf. Man.
Yeah.
If you,
He's got a new book out called "You Loser."
yeah, do it my way. All right. Okay.
That was not on the agenda you mentioned earlier. I just want to say that.
I
We're
like
already off topic.
This is the benefit of not doing any show prep at all. We get these gems of gold.
What do you say, pipe? Run that hill. Okay, I tell you what. Let's before we destroy the program, let's talk about this Christmas tune.
Yeah.
So, do we want to hear it first? What do you think?
I think we should.
Yeah,
Okay, let's do this.
Yeah, give it a spot.
I've not heard it. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Me too.
Oh man, I hate when the expectations are so.
Okay.
high.
Okay. He's making Covington nervous. He's gonna break out a pipe. All right. So this is Bells by Sean Covington. I'm gonna let it rock, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna chat on it. You're listening to Sean Covington on Live from the Path.
I was standing at a crossroads, not sure which way I'd go, when the shadow of a church bell's chime reached me across the snow. I was suddenly transported to another time, when worries weren't my daily bread or fear my cup of wine. Memories of a day that shines, 'cause a bell was meant to celebrate the end of the day. A bridegroom and his man wait, a bride on a wedding day. A ship returning to her port, safe from time and war. Hope lingers in the sound of every ringing bell. There was something in the timing of that old familiar sound. I almost didn't hear the ring, though the feeling was profound. Something old had been awakened, something I had known before. There was hope where I'd had none, like rope upon a bell. And a hammer struck my stomach, and my hands felt bound and numb. A bell was ringing in my heart and calling me to come discover who had rung this bell. 'Cause a bell was meant to celebrate the end of the day. The bridegroom and his man wait, a bride on a wedding day. A ship returning to her port, safe from time and war. Hope it lingers in the sound of every ringing bell. For 100 years of silence were broken by a cry. A baby born in Bethlehem to repay the serpent's lie. Though the squares were quiet on that night, the world was changed forever and for right. And now, to celebrate his birth, the bells are rung in towers throughout the earth. 'Cause the bell was meant to celebrate the end of the day. A bridegroom and his man wait, a bride on a wedding day. A ship returning to a port, safe from time and war. Oh, it lingers in the sound. There's hope, it shimmers in the sound
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. That turned out really nice, man.
Thanks, Mike.
That was really good.
Thank you.
Now hold on. People can dig on this throughout all of the Christmas season on Amazon, on the Apple Music Store,
That's right.
on Spotify,
Yep.
on Deezer.
Oh, yeah.
I don't do anything on Deezer.
Oh, it's on Deezer,
I
too,
don't
buddy.
know.
You better believe it's on Deezer.
I don't know Deezer.
I've never heard of it.
No.
I don't know what Deezer is, but it is
It is on there.
It feels like they punch you in the face with music. That's what it feels like.
Is
Like,
it?
Welcome,
I might have to check it
Oh,
out.
Welcome to
It
Deezer.
is on Deezer. Hold on. Here
I
was the
told you.
list: Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon, Deezer, and Napster.
Napster?
I didn't even know Napster was still
Napster's
around.
still here?
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, it's a
And
deal.
on MySpace.
Yeah.
Well, that way I get to reach every demographic.
Yeah. Boy, I'd like to meet the dudes that are still on Napster, going, this platform is still the best.
Yeah.
Well, it closed down and then it reopened.
Really? Under new management?
Well, I don't know about that.
Under
but
lawful
like, it's more legit
management.
now. It's
Yeah.
not about like stealing music.
Well, I mean, that's the only reason I used it back in the day.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore.
Okay, well, good. I like fences.
Okay. All right. So I really enjoyed that song,
Well, thanks,
Sean
Ben.
Covington. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did you have the idea for the story before you wrote it, or as you wrote it, or you kind of had the framework for the tune and it evolved from there? How did it show up?
Right. So full disclosure, I think I wrote this song like in 2011. And I was working, I think, with a pastor who was crafting a message for a particular week during the Christmas season, and it was using the symbol of bells. So if I'm being perfectly frank with you, I don't remember the exact circumstances under which I wrote the song, what the inspiration of the song was. I do remember, though, what the story tells.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what got my attention when I started thinking about recording a song this year. I initially started out recording another song. And I started working on it, and I was talking with a couple of friends, a couple of guys you guys have met Micah Smith from the August Guns, and you met Allie Crummy, and I was talking with both of them, just because I'm really, I stepped out of music writing and production and stuff like that for a pretty long period of time, and during that period of time, the market changed a lot. And so I felt very much like a stranger when I sat up this year and decided I'm gonna write a song and record it. And so they were sort of like, you should maybe think about. I mean, the timing of this. You're recording in the fall with a final date that's going to be like in October or November. You're going to get totally clobbered by Christmas carols if you try to release the song that late in the year. So you're probably going to want to release it next spring. And I was like, man, I really don't want to do that. And so just over the next couple of days, I was kind of just ruminating on what would be wise. And I was like, wait a second, Christmas song. I've got a Christmas song. And I pulled it up on my iPhone. Is what the kids call it these days, I think.
Yeah.
And I listened to it, and it was so just boring. And it was a really basic demo that I'd recorded, forever ago and forgotten about after its week had passed. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, wait a second, this makes total sense. This makes perfect sense. So the story of the song made sense to me in the context of 2020 and COVID and just the assault on truth and objectivity, and just everything seems so like bad.
Yeah.
And the story of the song just made sense to me in that context. And so that was like, I'm going to figure out a way to make this song work. So just kept demoing it and working around different problems I had with the song, and got to a point where I felt like, yeah, this is ready to go. Let's do it. And so went and cranked it out.
Would you say, is it substantially different from where you started?
I would say it's finished compared to where I started.
Okay.
Where I started was like one guitar part and one vocal part and just one, kick drum, snare part. It was just boom,
Yeah.
chick, boom, chick. It had no personality. It wasn't finished. It wasn't until we started playing with the lap steel guitar that I felt like, oh wait, there it is. That's what the song sounds like.
Yeah.
And then I went in and started working with Brian a little bit with the vocals and the drums. He came up with that drum riff, which I just thought was perfect. And it started to feel like something that people could enjoy, and that would, it would have an opportunity to actually talk.
I do like. Here's the thing: is like I do like songs that have a feel to them because they tend to have a feeling, right? And so like it is one of those songs that puts you in a space and puts you in an environment where there's a lot, especially Christmas music, right? Like you're already in the snow. There's already these fancy horses coming by. There's already lights up, right? Like, and so you can listen to a Christmas station for 3 hours, and you're still in the middle of a old town walkway with the same setup.
Mm-hmm.
And this song doesn't allow that, right? You kind of end up walking down a side street, right? It moves you out of a spot and puts you in a different environment. And that part, I think you achieved a very good feel of the song in the fact that it doesn't sit with everybody else in this loud, Christmas area. It doesn't. It's just it has a feeling to it. It has a mode to it, and that's what I really enjoyed about it.
Yeah,
actually.
there's a story that progresses in there, and that's one of the things I think that helped it make sense for me was, it starts with a person who is they're just doing their life. They're like it's the worst. I think this is the worst aspect of the song is the first line. I was standing at a crossroads. Oh, well, how many millions of stories or songs have started with a crossroads? Okay,
right.
But that's where we're at. As a community of people, we have to decide, and that's a crossroads, right? And so it's like this guy he's just doing his life. He's just trying to get through, and he's caught up in worry and anxiety. He doesn't see a path out of it. He's just living in it. And then there's this sound that is so familiar that it doesn't even really register. But then wait, there's this moment of nostalgia where he remembers something before worry, where he remembers something before just being tied up in knots about everything. And then it's that need to figure out, like, how does the joy that's hidden in this nostalgia make sense, and why is it still there? And pressing into that, he finds that it's a church bell. Okay, so now he's pressed to find out, like, why does the sound of this church bell have this feeling to it that I need to figure out, and he recognizes that inherently in the sound of a bell, this is kind of a flaw in the song, but inherently in the sound of a bell is one of two things: joy or terror, right? If you hear bells, somebody's married, right? Or somebody's, like I always thought of Fred Flintstone and the toot, he gets off work and he's headed home, ready to see Wilma and the gang, or the sound of bells means somebody's attacking, right? I think of that and it's like, or something bad is happening.
Right.
It's a call.
It's an alert. Yeah.
It's an alert. Okay, so I'm sort of skipping that part, and I'm just focusing on the celebratory aspect. We have the celebration of finishing a good work day, the celebration of a wedding, the celebration of somebody returning from a dangerous place safely. And this guy sort of runs into this sound to try and figure it out. And then he's confronted with this truth about a joy, about a celebration that it transcends the circumstances, right? So we have this picture of a baby who's born, and there's no big celebrating happening on that particular day, but we have the benefit of time knowing that this baby born is going to change the world, right? And that he's going to change it in a way that we can have a hope that withstands whatever circumstances are immediately in front of us, that they don't stand a chance compared to the hope presented by Christ. And so that story just felt like it made sense in 2020.
Yeah, I think it does, and I think the image of it's weird that you can pull so much from a bell when you kind of alluded to this earlier, that like it's so our lives are no longer regulated by that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, you push back time a good 150 years, right? Like the town runs on the bell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that your work day does. What you have no idea what time it is unless the bell rings. Why the church bells are doing that? Like there was a service there's a service that the church had in regulating life, and like now it could go off and it doesn't even draw your attention, but like there is a nostalgia to being drawn back into the weight of even something so simple as a sound that everyone hears at the same time, right? Like we didn't all. It's like everyone gets the news alert that something happened, and everyone turns around and you're sharing a moment. Like that's much different than everyone is in some sort of vicinity of which the whole town can hear the bell ring, and like everybody gets to react to that in that moment. So you have something that is so communal, but then something that is so personal, like with the guy in the song, right? Like everyone is hearing that in some means or another. It's drawing different things upon their mind. If you didn't have anybody on the ship coming in, there's no sense of worry. The ship is just back. But if you're waiting for someone who was on that ship and you don't know what happened to them, it's different. It's different. So I don't know. It's just a very, for something so simple, it is a very deep thing. Something to symbolize that has a lot of sinews into life that like you just don't contemplate until you're brought with the opportunity to. And so frankly, I don't know, like that the ship thing stuck with me because that's where the images of like the pervasiveness of a sound and its impact to the people around it, and everybody's taking it together, but everyone's taking in maybe slightly differently, and the ambiguity of what it's announcing. You don't even know what it's saying necessarily. Like on the other end of that,
You just know that you're going to know something.
yeah, something is to be known. And so anyway, it was just an interesting space. It was an interesting place to have taken that I didn't expect to be taken in the song. Just by thinking that is the symbol. So I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was really good. Now let's talk about the music itself.
Sure.
How many Sean Covingtons are we listening to?
Oh, well, there's 4 electric guitars in the back section of that.
Okay.
There's the acoustic guitar, my vocal part. I'm playing the bass. Great guy I met through the process of doing this is Brian Vanderpool. He's playing the drums. And then his wife is just a fantastic keyboards player. So she's playing. There's is it a Rhodes? Yeah, there's a Rhodes keyboard in there, and then they have a genuine B3 organ in their basement, which I just think is amazing. That must have been such an ordeal getting everything down there.
Oh man.
And then he also supplied some fantastic harmonies in there that I thought were just buttery. Just buttery.
They were buttery.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Okay. So lots of Covington, and then
And friends.
and friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And
All right.
butter.
And so a reminder: you can pick this up. You can buy it legit style. You can spin it on the Spotify or the Deezer
That's right.
or the
Amazon.
Amazon. What was the other one? Napster.
Napster.
Nathaniel loves Napster.
Yeah.
Do you use it, Nathaniel?
I in the past.
For nefarious reasons?
No.
Nefarious Napster.
Back when they were first like coming back.
Yeah.
The Coke rewards. You remember the Coke rewards?
Yeah.
The codes on the cap.
Yeah.
If you got enough caps, like you could go to Napster.
Well,
and
you're
that,
a cheap man, aren't
yeah.
you?
I mean, I was in like high school. I didn't have money.
Like, how many $2 Cokes do you got to buy a $1 song?
Well, what I would do is I would get other people who drank Coke on the regular, and I would say, "Hey, you just throw these caps out, right?" And they say, "Yeah, I throw them out like a normal human being."
Even as a legit business that leads to nefarious.
one time, Sonia Wright
Yeah.
came in the pathway, and she knew I was doing this, and she brought me in like a box load of like her mom or something like that.
Yeah.
Drank a lot of Coke. And she brought in a box load of like the tabs off the cartons
Yeah.
and the bottles, and like I had free music for forever after
You
that.
spun tunes forever. You could put
Yeah.
Covington on repeat and just let it fly while you
Yeah.
took a bath or whatever.
You
No
know
problem.
who doesn't offer that? Deezer.
Yeah.
No. I don't even know if Napster does that anymore with the Coca-Cola, but that's what I did back in the high school days.
Okay. All right. So anyway, if you're like Nathaniel and you like to live on the cheap and easy, you can still pick it up on the Napster.
I don't know about the easy. You got to manually.
It was a lot of work.
You gotta suffer through. You gotta suffer through all that coke first.
Yeah, it would have been a lot less work for me to get a job and go there and then pay for music
Instead of grafting.
Possibly could have written the song yourself.
So wait, actually, that just started interesting byroad. Then, has anybody ever gotten outside of Nathaniel's cap collection? Have you ever got involved in like collecting something to send in for rewards?
Oh, duh! The star on the lollipops, on the Tootsie Pops.
What? How many did you have to collect, and what did you get?
Oh heavens, I don't remember.
Was it worth it? Like, do you remember thinking? Like, did you feel accomplished?
I remember the joy of finding a wrapper with a star on it. I don't remember.
I didn't think you sent that in. I thought it was
I
just
never-
like you got a lucky one.
It was like a big deal, but I didn't know why. I thought, oh, look at that. And I'd throw it
Well,
away.
that explains why I don't remember any of that.
I sent it off to them and they threw it away. They're like, "Why are you sending us these wrappers back?"
Why do you keep?
Our church used to do the Campbell soup ones, and like they would send it to a mission. All these churches would send all these Campbell soup labels in, and they'd get like equipment and stuff for their whatever their mission was, children's home or something, and they'd get cars and I mean like big time stuff. It was really kind of cool.
Oh, it's a big.
So I still to this day I'll reach for the Campbells first, thinking I better get that label. I think I don't think anybody collects those anymore, but and then I'll go to the Hy-Vee.
Remember those tabs? Did they do that at the school?
like
when
the
you
Ronald McDonald
Yeah, they
house
were
tabs?
the tabs for the
pocket
yeah.
hand?
Yeah,
What was
yeah.
that? What were they?
That was for Ronald McDonald.
Yeah, Ronald
House.
McDonald House.
Yeah.
Right, but why were they
What was it?
collecting
Yeah,
the
was that
tabs?
just-
Was
think-
it like for recycling
You
purposes?
think they scrapped the aluminum at
Yeah.
like 0.01 cents?
Why wouldn't you just want the whole can at that point?
Well, you
Yeah,
can't
that's-
string the whole can up. You know, they start rattling together, and it looks like a cheap wedding present.
I think people were too cheap anyway. They wanted the nickel, but they said they might sacrifice the tab.
Yeah, because they'll give you the nickel without the tab.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Tested
It's a
and proven.
win-win.
Yeah, I've never participated in
The
sending
nickel.
stuff
You
in
never
like
collected
that.
anything and turned it in for big points?
No. They used to get buy one get one. They used to get a free 20-ounce Mountain Dew on 20-ounce Mountain Dews, like under the cap.
Oh yeah.
And that didn't increase or decrease the amount of Mountain Dew I drank. I was just excited to get
Do
one.
you guys remember? Was it Pepsi who had the campaign that you'd open the can and a $100 bill would pop out?
Oh,
No.
No, I don't know.
And it was like this big game to figure out like which cans were loaded.
Big time.
You ever
You
do
guys
the
don't remember
McDonald's
that?
Monopoly?
Okay.
That's what I was
Dan,
kind of
I'd
thinking the
expect you to
Monopoly.
remember that one. I wouldn't
Yeah.
expect the boys to remember.
I don't remember this $100 pop-up Pepsi
No.
can.
Hold
This
on.
sounds like a farce to me.
Magic cans were special mechanical cans used by the Coca-Cola Company in the U.S. as a part of their $100 million Magic Summer 90 promotion. Yeah,
I wasn't born
Coca-Cola
yet.
pop-up
So
can
Nathaniel was
contest.
still
Yeah.
I wasn't born.
in
And I
the
feel like I'd
ether.
be upset. Like I wanted a cool, refreshing soda, and then you threw $100 at me.
It's
in
a
this
lousy
can.
$100.
Couldn't you tell by the weight of the can?
No, I think that it was magic.
Was there a
you just
battery
heard
in
your
there?
brother say magic
Okay.
can.
They had to put liquid in there too.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm
And you
wrong.
got a soggy 100.
Yeah, I don't want no soggy Franklin. I just want this soda I
Put it in
want.
a glass.
I mean, I wouldn't reject it.
I mean, you could just go buy another one.
Yeah.
I guess.
Don't drink that $100.
Test
You
your
don't know where
luck.
that's been.
What
Hold
about
on,
the punch card?
hold
you ever
on.
do the punch card?
For what?
For like anything. Like where
I'll
the
do it for
10th
my
one's
haircut
free?
place right now.
Jiffy Lube.
Okay, Jiffy Lube,
Yeah,
No.
you get
haircuts. You're actively in the middle of a card, both of you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's still
got
like
2
the
punches on my
legit
Jiffy Lube.
punch card. It's not like
Greenbrier.
at the gas station down in Moberly, they had a punch card for the coffee, and every like
Oh, yeah.
10th coffee was free.
Yeah.
And then they threw them out. They said, we're doing away with these. We got these plastic cards. It's our reward card. You get coffee and soda now. And I
Ooh.
said, I don't want that.
Brugger's used to do that. The punch card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's
I
over
love
to
the punch card.
I see. I'm all right with the rewards programs.
No, I don't like them.
The punch cards.
I always would say to the people, they say, you want to sign up for the rewards? I said, no, I don't want the government tracking me. It was a joke, obviously, but they didn't think it was funny.
Said,
I'm ready for a free haircut right now.
oh man, Dan's ready to go.
At the Supercuts.
At the
Yeah.
Supercuts. Okay. Just to tie this one up on that magic can, so the number of cans had problems, the pop-up mechanism malfunctioned, jamming, or a faulty seal released some of the chlorinated water mixture into the can itself.
Yeah.
A widely reported incident involved an 11-year-old boy in Massachusetts drinking the foul-tasting liquid used to replace actual cola.
Yeah. This is the dumb idea.
Despite initial fears, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health determined that the water was not harmful, containing a lower concentration of chlorine than the water in a typical swimming pool. It's a much higher concentration, I think. Worried about the bad publicity and potential product liability lawsuits, Coke immediately placed television and newspaper advertisements in 50 large United States markets. The full-page ads, run only once, warn consumers that a very small number of cans contain a foul-smelling but harmless water that should not be ingested. The ads were headlined, "Take a good look," and in smaller type it read, "You could have a magic can."
Wow.
Okay, I just gotta say, I have been astounded. This is totally. It might seem off topic. I'll cut to it.
Okay.
My garbage can has directions on it.
What do you mean?
So here's what I'm saying.
Like this
I'm
side
saying
up,
is
or-
it's gotten so bad that my garbage can has directions on where to put my hands and what to do after I've set my hands in the correct place. They tell me how to move my garbage can. I'm just thinking, if I open a can and I smell something foul, am I going to drink it?
Yeah.
Well, I did find instructions that warned me not to drink it if it smelled foul.
But I
So-
said to myself,
I
it is a
mean,
can.
To be fair, the
It
Lord,
looks like soda.
The Lord gave you a brain that interprets foul-smelling things, and your instant reaction is, "I'm not going to drink that.
I'm not
It stinks
drinking
bad. I'm not going to have it." Right? But this 11-year-old boy goes, "That's terrible. I'll have swig. It's
Sure
in a
am
legit
thirsty."
Coke can. What could go wrong?"
What could go wrong here?
You know?
That's
I
all
mean-
I'm saying is, like, do we really need instructions for this?
Here's the thing. No, you say that, but then people drink bubbly. Have you had that bubbly?
Okay, now look.
It's very
I was
bad.
drinking a
This
lot of
could
it
come to
late
blows
recently,
here.
No, Covington, no.
To be
Yeah.
honest with you.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's basically what it is it's fart water.
It's
Disguised
just
in a
the right
can.
amount of crispy bubble
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
To take your money and give you nothing.
and to satisfy my desire for a crispy bubble.
No, it's a gypsy wagon. They're selling they're selling Dad's moonshine made out of whatever they found in the last town. I'm telling you, that bubbly is disgusting.
What's
it
it-
tastes like baking soda.
It's
What's
good.
All right, so in
I love it.
fairness, I'm taking this to be a general statement about the essenced drinks in general.
Yeah, what's the
I'm not
going to
defend bubbly as a
LaCroix.
brand.
Yeah.
I'm a LaCroix man.
There's no such thing as
There's
a
an
LaCroix man.
aha.
Oh,
Coke.
I beg to differ, sir. I
Coke
beg to
came out
differ,
with the
sir.
aha.
With the Virginia Slim.
Gross. Yeah.
Now listen, that's neither confirmed nor denied.
I'm a LaCroix man. There's no such thing. That's classic.
That's Mike for you.
I
Always
just,
willing to embarrass you in public on the internet.
There's
no
nobody
less.
listens to the show, Covington. There's nothing to worry about.
I saw you guys. You got lots of subscribers.
listen to me. That is a soda can dressed in a Halloween costume. There's not real soda. It's a fool. It's Copeland blowing in there. A little bit of bubbles, a little bit of water. Put a little baking soda in it, and then one squeeze of lemon. They're like, "Look at this fancy drink. It's gonna be $1.75." You're like, "I can buy the completely full of cancer soda for 85 cents and feel refreshed."
Okay, so just
until the cancer kicks in.
to clarify, Mike, your comparison is LaCroix is like Pentecostal televangelist.
Yes,
That's what it is.
it's televangelist water. Yes, that's exactly what it is. That summed it up perfectly.
That's pretty deep. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
Yeah.
I think you're wrong, but it's deep.
You know why? Because LaCroix is in a surface well. Because there's no depthness to it. It's just disgusting. It is not good at all.
Yeah,
Dan, do you drink that flavored water?
No.
No.
I like it.
Somebody,
Don't let him scare you.
I'd rather punch myself
But
in the
also,
face.
also, I don't pay for it on my own dime. Like, I was buying it by the case when I was getting the $52 a day from the work
Yeah.
to travel. I
And that's
brought,
what you bought with it?
yeah, I bought like 10 cases home when I was up in
Oh wow.
when I was up in
Even Covington is
Okay,
disgusting.
hold up.
10 cases. That's
was
that's
up
a bit much.
I was
Now
up in
you're
Wisconsin.
storing it though. This is
Yo,
now,
no, yeah, I was buying all sorts of food to bring home. Like
Like a
I would buy
doomsday
it,
prepper.
like smoked paprika, stuff that I wouldn't buy like on my own dime. 'Cause it's expensive.
smoked paprika and LaCroix by the
Too
case.
expensive on my regular paycheck. But on the company's dime, I'm getting this smoked paprika.
And paid up on the Napster.
Boy, you're like a caricature of yourself. You got Coke rewards and smoked paprika. I'm living high life.
you were
I like the guns. That's good.
So these two stories that I've told have made me seem like a real cheapo, but I'm really not like
Yeah.
that.
You want to go out to dinner with us, Nathaniel? No, man. I'm going to the local
Yeah.
Piggly Wiggly. They got smoked paprika on sale.
I
Bring
got-
them home to the kids.
Sometimes Ben and I go out to the Perkins for breakfast,
Uh-huh.
and I this week in the mail I got some coupons from the Perkins, and I saved like 4 of them or 5 of them because it was buy one get one free
That's right.
entrees.
Yep.
So I was like, these have been great.
You've talked me into the moons over my hammy.
I'm so cheap.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So while we're on when's the last time you used a coupon? Covington, you a coupon man?
Afraid not.
No, no coupons. Dan, couponer?
I mean, like an online thing that says put in this code. I'll use.
Okay,
that.
you might online
yeah,
code
yeah,
man.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, but I can't think of it.
But if you had to like show physical evidence of your chintziness, you're not doing it.
I mean, I'm not opposed. I just don't have anywhere where I find coupons these
Okay.
days.
Nathaniel poses for he's like wanted and caught coupon user.
I mean, I'm not like hard. When I worked at the Walgreens in my youth, there was like people who would spend forever. They had booklets, binders full of coupons, and they would get like $300 worth of items for like $20,
Yeah,
and
well.
it would take forever to check them out. It was a big hassle, and I hated it. And I did not think nice thoughts about them in my head, and so
And
I'm
yet
not like
here
a.
you are.
Huh? Yeah. I mean. It came in the mail. It's not like I was like
How the
looking
tables
for
have
it.
turned.
Now I feel really bad when I go to the Long John Silver's and they say, "Do you have a coupon?" I think, "Crap, no, I don't."
No.
I go to the Harbor Freight with if you go to the Harbor Freight without a coupon,
Okay, but look,
You're a
you're at
fool.
Harbor Freight. They give you the coupon in line.
that's what I'm saying.
I suppose
It's
that's
not like I got to do anything. I just
actually
gotta
you still don't have to do anything. The gal will cut it out for you. Hey, there's a coupon for that. Let's ring you up for it. They'll just open the thing, scan it. You don't even have to act like you care about coupons.
No.
Yeah.
I will not use coupons because I don't like the store telling me what's on sale and what I want. If I want,
Of course, Mike won't be bullied into buying a certain thing by cheap prices.
You won't make me save money.
I won't. They're like, hey, we got 85% lean hamburger on sale. I'm like, I want the 90s. I don't want no 85s. You ain't gonna tell me what to buy. There has to be something to it. I don't trust it, and I don't use coupons for that exact reason.
So anytime that you've ever come home with something, just a normal person goes, "Hey, where'd you get that?" "Oh, it's on sale." That's the phrase Mike will never use.
That's true.
I won't be bullied.
Yeah. In fact, when the wife says when I go to the store, I double the bill because she says she at least waits to see if we're on sale or like plans a meal out, and I'm like, I want Chips Ahoy. We're not getting Chips Ahoy. I'm like, but I want it. I have a full-time job. I want Chips Ahoy cookies. That's what we're gonna buy.
I won't be bullied by these discounts.
Yeah, and by the time we get through all the aisles, I've added $100 worth of crap. I mean, I bought waffle cones, no ice cream. I just like to eat the waffle cones.
That's me too.
Oh no, Covington's
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
What kind of peanut butter? I want
Lori
name
will-
brand peanut butter. I don't know why.
She'll send me to Costco or someplace, for milk, and then she like shakes her head at me when I walk in the door like this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Milk. That's
Look.
what I said. Milk.
yeah.
I
The lady
got-
was giving
You've
out
got sweatshirts. You've got belts.
free samples of Jimmy Dean's breakfast sandwiches. I'm like, these are pretty good.
I don't
We
even
should
like
try
those hot dogs.
Yeah,
I only bought 10 things. It was $838. Welcome to the Costco.
yeah. That's Costco.
All right. Hey, you're listening to Live from the Path. We're talking to Sean the Bard Covington on his new release, Bells. You can, like I said, you can pick that up on Amazon, Spotify,
Napster, indeed.
Napster, which runs by. They've got to pull start that web server every day to get it running at the Napster. The guy comes in at 5:30. Okay, good. So this is great. Now, Bard, is there? Did you record other things at the time? Like, you got other
Yeah.
stuff cooking to hit the wax?
Yeah. So I actually started out with another song altogether. Brought in a bunch of friends to come in and help, and started it and didn't get it finished, and just totally sidetracked into this totally different song. Did Bells, got it finished. So I'm going in actually on the 18th, I believe, to hopefully wrap up "You See Me," which is a song I'm genuinely excited about. Finishing and getting out into the world. Hopefully I'll have that ready to release in the spring.
Now, are you going to go Weird Al style and just do singles from here on out, or do you got like a full one cooking?
So I don't know. I don't really know what the best strategy is on that. If I'm being perfectly transparent, it seems like what they call horizontal or lateral release is kind of the MO of the day.
Yeah.
Especially with streaming services and stuff, you just keep things coming out, trickling out, and it keeps people paying attention, which in theory, I guess, generates streams, which generates its own revenue. In contrast to releasing, 8 or 9 songs all at once, boom, then you have, a nice flow of traffic for 3 months, and then it kind of tapers off.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know what I'm going to do. I'm still kind of waiting for the Lord to kind of help direct my attention on that, because on the one hand, just constantly recording and releasing music. It feels to me like something that could potentially turn into a distraction. And so I'm still trying to kind of work out the degree to which the Lord is calling me to this.
Yeah.
And still be faithful with the other things that I feel called to do.
Right. Because you alluded to earlier, you had backed away for a bit, and
Yeah.
so dipping your toes back in the water. The question is how deep you go swimming.
Sure. Well, and I think one of the things that I found out is that it's pretty easy to tie your flag to the wrong thing, and your identity starts to become contingent on the success of a song,
Right.
on people's perception of you as a performer, as a musician, your credibility, your perception of your credibility, and those things can become terrible masters. So. Yeah, I don't want to put myself in that position again. I was talking with my wife about this the other day. It's like part of me very much wants to be a responsible steward of the strengths, the gifts, and the interests that the Lord's given me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be negligent of those things. On the other hand, I also don't want them to become my masters. So trying to sort of feel that out. I'm really, like I said, I'm eager to finish this song that we started before we finished Bells, because it also is a product of, shutdown, quarantine, and the headspace of that, and it's dear to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, how to proceed beyond that, I'm still kind of waiting on the Lord to show me which way to go.
Okay. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that sounds good. All right. Well, anyway, pick it up, let it spin, add it to your holiday playlist. I don't know how you get it to lobby like Amazon to it. Do they I don't know who puts together the playlists.
Well, there's a lot of different ways playlists are made. There are what they call influencers, right?
Yeah.
Guys like you.
Yeah, that's me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who compile your own sense of what's hot and what's trendy, what's cool, and then people of course want to be like you, and they want to listen to the things that you listen to, and then Spotify has their own sort of, I think, algorithmic ways of building playlists. If a song goes from 0 to 100 in no time flat, they notice that and they put it on a playlist. I'm in no danger of that happening.
We'll see what's hot. Let's fire it up on every device you have and let it
Yeah.
spin.
I'll fire up at my house before I leave
Just-
the house. I'll just let it blow all day.
Yeah.
Let the water run all day,
Yeah.
right? So that's one way, and then obviously, artists build their own playlist. In fact, I've built a playlist out of other Christmas songs that I thought were inspirational or similar in tone or quality to my song. And so, if you visit my profile as an artist on Spotify, you'll see there's a playlist there with 15 songs on it. I think that I put together from the likes of We Are Messengers and Andrew Peterson. Oh gosh, who else? Like I said, there's several songs on there that I felt like connected with Bells in some way, form or fashion. Mission House, Jess Ray and Taylor Leonhardt, great couple, great writing couple. They do fantastic work.
All right. So yeah, I suppose look for it on its singular, but also on playlists.
You bet. Put it in your
In the
playlists.
market, yeah. So that Spotify knows you dig on it in
That's
that way.
exactly right.
Hey, so speaking of electronics. Okay. So do you guys have connected? Do you use any of the connected devices, like Alexa or like smart plugs,
Yeah.
stuff like that? You guys use that stuff? What do you use it for, Dan? What do you use that stuff in your house?
Like the Alexa, I set timers all the time.
Okay, I do that. Yeah.
I
Yep.
turn my Christmas tree lights on.
Like you talk to it and it
I
turns
call
on the
and say,
lights.
hey, turn on sexy, and the Christmas light comes on.
You just set that on your own?
I did. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's the little things, isn't it, Dan?
It is. It makes me so happy. And my wife makes sure does not call it sexy. She just says the lights,
Yeah.
which is really disappointing. I do really lame things.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just music. Play some music. Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like a legit use. So this is kind of new to me. We had like the Google Home for a while, and then that's what I use primarily is the timers. Like I'm in the kitchen, I use I steep the coffee or whatever, and it has to go for 10 minutes. So I mean, yeah, hey, set a timer for 10 minutes.
Do it all the time.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I do it for laundry.
Oh yeah.
So you don't forget.
Yeah, the kids are in trouble. I said go to your room, and then when they go upstairs, I say, hey, Alexa, set a timer for 5 minutes, so I know when to go get the kid out. So anyway, I don't know why. Like my wife was kind of against this. I think she just didn't like it. And frankly, I don't know if you guys have had either the Google Home or the Alexa, but the Alexa is super sensitive. Like the Google Home, I mean, you got to be like, hey Google, like shake it up like a drunken barman. Alexa is like the creeper. Like you can whisper, hey Alexa, from like the other room, and it's like, what you talking about, Ben? I didn't find anything about what you just said. And
now,
so
Alexa will also tell you when you've had something delivered from Amazon, so you can't hide that from your wife.
Ooh.
Because you say, tell me my notifications, and it says, well, the lingerie you ordered come in today. I'm like,
no.
Oh, shucks.
That's not for you. No, that's
That's a Dan Hudson special.
That's for men. That's why I said sexy time on the Christmas tree. So anyway, so like over the last, we had moved over the last 6 months, and so like I got some cameras that I had to have out in the barn. Because I'm trying to figure out if there's anything lurking out there. So I got a camera up. I got a camera, like a wireless camera up at the driveway. So if anybody's going to sneak and try to take something, just know I got a camera on the joint. And then I bought it was pre-Black Friday, there was like one of those vacuums. Like Dan, like you have in the sanctuary.
Yeah.
Every time. So that one time I came in here and down to the sanctuary, there's this like army of robots vacuuming the church, and I thought,
awesome.
Friggin' Dan Hudson is brilliant. This is brilliant.
Nobody else is doing it.
This is fantastic. And so I couldn't let it go. Like my whole mind's like, I got to pick up one of these. And like our house has gotten twice the size from when we moved. And so I thought I'm gonna get one of these and I'm just gonna let it search. But I paid $100. It was on super sale, but it was the dumb ones. It was the ones that just like knock into crap and then go the other direction until it stops knocking into crap. So like it doesn't know what room it's in. It doesn't know it's already been in this one place 50 times. And so this is totally ineffective, especially because I got 4 kids in my house. We're leaving stuff all over the floor, so like it can't go anywhere. It bumps into something of like a playing card and goes, oh, nothing,
Lego.
can't go here. Yeah, and then goes the other way. And so, like, this thing is not good. So, long story short, I got that, and then I had, like, a plug that I'd put up so I could do a light in place. And so, we were getting used to this stuff, and, like, earlier this week, all of a sudden, like, none of it works. Like, absolutely none of it. I pull up the app, and, like, I'm trying to open the thing up, and, like, the lights won't come on. I talk to Alexa, and she doesn't even say anything back. Like, it's on, and it doesn't even say anything back. The cameras have gone, like, completely black. And I'm like, what? What is going on here? Like, I can't call a customer service. 6 things are down. This isn't one device's problem. Something's going on here. But the power's fine and the internet's fine. I couldn't figure it out. And so I was walking outside, and the neighbor was driving up, and like I flagged him down, and I just said, hey man, are you having any trouble with your electronic devices? He's like, yeah, our stuff's out. It's probably be out for another 5-6 hours. I'm like, well, what the heck's going on? He's like, what do you mean what's going on? Don't you know? I'm like, obviously not. That's why I'm standing out here talking to you in my driveway about this. And he goes, the Pope is in town. And they're blocking. What? They're blocking.
I figured that out.
They're blocking all of the of like these smart devices because they're like, it's just when the Pope travels, he just takes out the waves for security purposes. And so my house is on the way to Pleasantville, and the Pope was going, like, the word was the Pope was going to Pleasantville. And so I said, boy, where the heck is the Pope going? And they gives me the address, and I'll be doggone if it's not Mike's house.
Boy, it's always there.
And I said, what the heck is going on? And so I drove over there, and sure enough, there's like scads of people piled up on Mike's lawn because they think the Pope is going to be there. And so I went into Mike. I said, Mike, what the heck? There's all these people think the Pope. I said, is the Pope really coming? And Mike goes, his Excellency does not ever visit. I don't believe he's coming, but I don't know what I'm going to do to get rid of these folks. And so he said, I think I know what I got to do. I got to act like the Pope would. You know, Pope walks out on the balcony, the veranda, and he puts his arms in the air like this, and he mumbles to himself in Italian, and then he speaks, and he gives some kind of word of wisdom or whatever, and then the people go, thanks, Pope, and they leave. And so Mike goes, this is what I got to do. I got to give some Pope-style advice. And so, Mike, what did you tell these fellas to get them to go away?
Well, I said, I've been thinking a lot lately. Like, you guys remember that song? I can't remember which one of the worship groups did it, but it was No Longer a Slave to Fear.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bethel.
Yeah, Bethel. And so, I don't know. I was listening to it earlier this week, and I was just thinking about how much, like, if I could look back and see how much stuff I actually fear, right? And I didn't realize it was quite so pointed until I realized there are sins, both that I commit and that other people commit, that I am absolutely afraid of, right? Like, I get uncomfortable when they come up. I don't want to deal with them head on. I don't know. It's so weird. Like, you find me a guy that has a porn addiction, or a dude that's been strung out on drugs for 20 years. I'm like, yeah, okay, let's talk. Yeah, this is fine, right? And then there's some other sins that just, like, I'm scared of them. Like God has no reign over them. Like, once they grab a hold of somebody, it can't be let go. Like, God can't run bounds on this. And like, we've got entire groups of people in our country that we feel that way about, that the church feels that way about, that they look at a subsection or a subculture of our population, and they're enemies of what God is doing. And we are concerned with the fact that their sin is obviously something that they've bought into as who they are, and there's no redemption. It's just against. And I didn't believe that was my heart on that type of stuff, and it's still not. But I do think that most of the reaction where God's people are looking at it that way is just straight up fear. We're afraid of it. We're afraid of something, right? And like, at the core of what you look at, what you believe, and what the God that you say that you follow, and the way that you've attuned your life, I find it amazing of how many conversations that I talk to people who are Christ followers, and they're straight up afraid, and they're full of anxiety, and like, obviously this year has not helped that, almost to the point where it's eye rolling to me. Like, not only has this year produced anxiety, but we've taken to celebrating the anxiety and fear by the end of it, right? Like, it's meme time, and there's news broadcasts, and there's experts in psychology that show up and go, yes, this is something that we're all feeling. Feel it deeper. Embrace it. Embrace the anxiety. Embrace the fear. We're all going through it. They're like, this has just been the craziest year, right? And then you look back at the years, even in the last 100 years, where my grandpa went through World War II. World War II. That was a crazy year. Couple years. These were crazy times. There was gas shortages and famines. And like, legit, we got people are starving. The stock market crash, that was in the last 100 years. Where people were in bread lines. We were sectioning out food. And like, there are pockets of our society in Western America where this is like that for them. So don't hear me saying that there are not people that are severely affected by this, because there is. And that COVID is a disease that can cause real harm to real people. That's all true. But it seems to me like we've taken to celebrating the fear of it all as a collective, that and wallowing in our own small scale fear, right? I mean, there are things to be respectful of. That doesn't equal fear. I respect this enough to say, wear a mask around whoever, or when I go out in public, do this. That's a respect of something. Hiding is different. Hiding is a fear, right? Like people who are within your close friend group or your family that you can't associate with anymore because of you're flat out afraid of what they're going to involve you in or what they have going on. You don't want to get involved because you're afraid of it. And like, I think at the end of the day, I've been praying a lot about some of the reasons that I fear things when I know a God who reigns above it all. I know a God whose name is greater than any other name. I should have very little fear. In fact, we just talked about it on the way in when we were before the show started. It's like, it's the one phrase you'll never hear come out of Yahweh, the Holy Spirit, or Jesus Christ. God was afraid of something. God feared, right? Like, it's not a character of his personality. He doesn't have fear. God doesn't have fear. That's why he promises to bring fruits of the Spirit and peace and joy because they can't exist where fear exists. And so I think after I was watching the Thanksgiving Day parade, and like it really was, every bit of the commentary was a celebration of how crazy of a year and how fearful we have to be and all the things that are going on. And I'm like, boy, grand scale, there's really not that much. I mean, can you pick a better time to be quarantined? We have video calls. I can call my grandma. I can work from home, right? Like of all the times for this to happen, I agree. I don't want you to hear me sounding insensitive. I'm not trying to take the weight off where I think weight is appropriate. But adding weight where it doesn't belong, that is fear. That is fear. And so I guess even with our year that we've had aside, maybe I'm talking to myself and maybe I'm talking to other followers of Christ here, but like fear is not an emotion we invest in as a follower of Jesus Christ. We don't invest in it. You can acknowledge it. You can acknowledge that there's something that you could fear here, and then you hand it over to a God who has no fear. And then you're back to going. You're back to going again. And like that's not an oversimplification. The process is actually simple. Handing it over to Christ, you know that's a struggle. There's some things that you want to take back and want to reinvest in fear and reinvest in anxiety. I get that. I think everybody gets that. But the process itself is simple. And really what I think it has the most to do with is humbling who you think you are. Humbling where you of your perception of yourself and not degrading your perception of yourself or who Christ says that you are or who God defines you are as who you are, but more of just a humbling of who reigns above it all. It's not you. And because it's not you and you know who it is and you know it's a perfectly capable, loving Father that can do it, then your fear should be much less. And you're going to take it and you're going to have to give it back, and it's going to be a back and forth. There's no shame in that. But the process is still simple. The fear goes to him, and he's not afraid of it, right? You imagine the things that you're praying about, and you're like, God, I'm just struggling. This person is just way off the rails, and I feel like they just don't know you, and I think they're going down the wrong path. And Jesus goes, yeah, I know. I'm not afraid of this. I'm ready. I'm ready to take this head on. I'm ready for you to continue to submit this to me and let the Holy Spirit do what the Holy Spirit does, and I will tell you where you fit. I'm not afraid of this one bit. So I think if my Pope-style advice, I realize it's a hair shallow and a hair deep, but like I think my Pope-style advice is if you find yourself sitting in the anxiety and fear camp, as a follower of Christ, he's just not afraid of it. He's not afraid of it, right? And he's not afraid of you being afraid of it, and he's not afraid of you handing your fears and your anxieties over to him. There's nothing more holy in wallowing in heavier things. The heavier things are still God things, just like the light things are still God things. There's nothing more holy about you submitting to fear. There's something more holy about you humbling yourself and getting rid of the fear and giving it to where it belongs. So anyway, get off my lawn.
You've silenced the room, Mike.
I don't know. It either means it meant nothing or it meant something. Those are the only options of silence.
I think the key word that you used there was invest. I think there's it's if what I'm hearing you say is that people are.
Hey, scoot up there, Covington. Snuggle up to that microphone. People love you.
I need to get all the way to the yellow lights.
There you go.
Okay, we don't just want the green lights. We want the yellow lights. If you're investing in it, that's what I'm hearing you say is that these commentators were sort of in giving people permission to continue in fear. Is that?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say
justifying.
I mean, what do we do very well nowadays? We commiserate together. Right? Look at, it's the entire meme culture.
Right.
Right.
So there's this communal identity of fear. There's a communal identity of frustration that we can take solace in by sharing it with other people. So like I feel justified in my anger because Nathaniel agrees and also feels angry, and then now Mike also does, and or fear or anxiety or whatever it might be, and it can begin to grow and collect steam, I guess would be the way to think
or
of it. Or
become a definition. Like I think the distinction is like where you going to visit, where you going to live, right? Like you want to some of these things that we fear are rightful places to visit. They cause you to think, to take stock of your world, to look around and say, I don't have control here and it scares me. That's a totally human place to visit. It's not a safe place to live. Right? And so like I think the difference is that like when we start to identify as that and say, I mean it's funny, haha, 2020 is the Godzilla monster. Okay. But like when you actually far from it being a series of events that we have to deal with, and it becomes like a definition of our reality. You chose to live in an unsafe place. Right? Like, it's okay to visit. It's okay to visit and take stock and say, look, this is, I'm afraid in this moment. But to the extent that that starts to become a definition of where you live and starts to guide who you think you are or the world that you think you live in or the inertia that exists underneath the presence of good news in your life and the ability to find joy, like, that's when it starts to screw you. And that's it's because we set up camp on something we shouldn't have set up camp on. And so, like, it's interesting how often we say, hey, this is a new reality. We use that phrase too flippantly. Hey, well, you got to get used to this new reality. And this is not just a COVID thing. It's an everything. Like, it shows up all the time. The new reality is this, and because some minor thing happened, and as minor as changing of a president. Sorry, not that big of a deal. We think it's the biggest thing in the world. It's not the biggest thing in the world. It's the same people you live next door to you, are still living next door to you. Vast majority of people who were in the government before they just swapped out a dude are still there. It's not actually that big of a deal. And so I guess that's the thing, is that like, where are you gonna visit? Where are you gonna live? What I'm hearing, Mike, I think from yours is that like, where you visit fear, I think it's healthy. There's a healthy understanding.
Yeah.
Where you allow then the presence of that to be your permanent reality or even an extended reality. One, it puts a pressure on you that you are not capable of alleviating. A lot of your fear is a recognition that like, I don't have control of this. There is a reality to that. There's a truth to that. Either you can then have to deal with the fact for the next X number of months, years, that you don't have any control here, or you turn it over to he who has control and says, I did the only thing I could do. Mm-hmm. Within my control is to say, look, I recognize I don't have control, and it's not doing me any good to continue to worry about this. Like, you guys know this in the room. I'm an anxious guy. I get these types of things. I have to spend time doing that, saying, I have no control over this. In some way, I fear it. I fear outcomes that I can't predict. I fear the inability to make good decisions in places where, like, I don't know how to solve problems when I can't actually help, and I want to help, and I don't know how to do it. All of those things are ultimately outside of my control. And to the extent that I can turn them over to Jesus, I lived there. I visited there, but I didn't live. If I had to live there, that is numbing. That is too heavy of a burden that we were not designed to carry. And to the extent that you embrace that and make that your reality, that is super difficult. And frankly, then you start taking in the world that way all the time. And it tends to add to it. Like, it's anxiousness is cumulative. It just, like, once you start looking at the world that way, everything comes in that way, and it starts to pile on itself. And so that's what I was thinking about, Mike, as you were talking. Is that like, it's the presence of these types of things, I think, are okay. And some people will take it on more than others because the reality will persist. But like, there's not a virtue in going, yeah, this has been the absolute worst. Because in reality, this has been the absolute worst for a good chunk of people. This has not been the absolute worst for me. It just hasn't. I can't claim that it has. I have no reason anywhere when someone goes, "Yeah, 2020, it's been terrible." I won't like it. I won't share it because it's not been true for me. And there's no reason for me to try to take some of that for myself when there's legit people who are having the worst. And
Correct.
so, like, there's a notion of that reality too, where like, I don't need to share a communal sense of the worst, except for that I'm sharing in the plight of others, but I don't need to take it on as my own identity. I'm not going through the same things other people are. And I don't think it's helping to actually say that.
You know, my biggest challenge this year has been I'm not fearful at all about what's going on, which makes me, I don't know how to process people who are.
Mm-hmm.
There's people who I have not seen for months, who I used to see all the time.
Yeah.
And because they're still in their homes, you know, and they're afraid. And they might say, "Oh, it's for other people," but it's for them. I mean, they're just not doing things. And I've really struggled with this recently. It's like, I don't know how to help them. I don't know how to process. I don't know how to communicate with them. I don't know how to you know. I've in many cases I've tried to stop myself, but I've lost a lot of respect for a lot of people in different arenas, not just like the COVID thing, but political, just everything going on. It's just crazy. I'm just like, man, y'all are just crazy.
You all go nuts.
And I probably shouldn't use that word because some people really are having mental health
true.
issues.
Yep,
I mean,
yep.
'cause I don't mean that flippantly. And I'm just like, I'm overwhelmed personally, not knowing how to help people that are so freaking afraid of everything. I mean, I just like, gosh, we're all going to die. I mean, something's going to kill us. Something's going to get us, and everybody's just afraid to look in the mirror and
it's hard, right? Because like you read through most of the Bible, right? And like the emotions of people are not well documented, right? Like it doesn't say, and Moses, felt self-conscious about this thing. You know what I'm saying? Or he was really trying to find himself in the way that he was. You know what I'm saying? It tells stories and actions and outcomes, and like you can kind of put yourself in some of the things and see how people are feeling, and of course like the Psalms especially we'll go through some laments and that kind of thing, but like it feels like we do a lot of self-reflection, which at its core you want to say, part of me wants to go, yes, it's good to keep track of yourself and see where you're at and process things correctly and manage yourself, right? Like that seems inherent in God's design. He gave you all the capacities to do it, And then part of me goes, but you're spending an awful lot of time on yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and to the point where you can't actually live outside of yourself because you're 100% focused on running this machine, and the thing that's got you down are not even realities. They're things that you're afraid of might happen, or the things that are disappointed that did not happen, and it's taken the entire machine and broken it down. And like, I don't know, it just feels like on the whole, most of Scripture doesn't address that well or show that it happens a lot, right? In the examples we get of humanity, we see a lot of cause and effect, or rebellion, or compliance. We see a lot of that. We don't see a lot of the internal mind struggles that people have, and so like once again, there has to be a healthy amount of that. I think it's in, once again, God's design, but like there becomes a point where you're your own idol, right? You spend all the time on you, and all you do is worry about how you feel or what other people are thinking, or what might happen if you do this or whatever, and like it can literally paralyze you, like real fast. It can paralyze you.
Yeah.
I don't know how much weight to give that, because it's very insensitive to say, listen, you've got to stop. You got to get over yourself here, friend. Right? You got to stop spending all your time, because frankly, in the kingdom that God's laid out, that's not where the joy is. The joy is not focusing on yourself. It's not going to the head table, sitting down and go, look at me, I'm well honored, right? Like that's not where any of the joy is. But we spend a lot of time, saying, look, yes, you got to work on you. You got to fix this. You got to do this you got to focus on you. And like, that's a real big culture push, is you, whatever you feel, whatever you think, whatever you want to define that as, whatever you, right? And like, all that seems very unhealthy to me. But if you say, listen, you need to start thinking about other people, you're very insensitive to my needs right now of how I'm feeling, because I need to work on me. And so like, I think as a rather brash and to the point person, I really struggle with where this line is, and with it still being God's heart, right? Because God has grace and mercy for all these things, right? And a love for all these things.
Well, but you mentioned I don't know, an hour or two ago about Revelation. Maybe that was before we were on camera.
Yeah.
But I think of the people in the time of Revelation when that was written. To be a Christian in some areas, you were under threat of being tortured, burned in oil, set on fire, fed to lions. I mean,
all very real options.
Yeah, I mean, it was happening, right? It was literally happening, and people still refused to not gather. I mean, whether it was Sunday morning church time, whatever. I mean, they still gathered somehow in some way. The church was growing and thriving, and things were happening. The kingdom was well. It was scary times, so we know scary was. And I think what a bunch of freaking wimps we are right now. In that we're just like we're shut up in our homes, partly because of virus, partly because there might be a riot, partly because someone voted the wrong way, or I mean there's all kinds of stuff. I get that. And I think, what happened? Where are we just that much of a big fat cat American church that we just, this is finally the thinning of the spreading of the wheat and the tares or something going on, or
So isn't that the balance,
am I
right?
being brutal there though?
I don't mean to be argumentative.
Yeah,
No, go.
but I need some.
There's a difference between me taking my life in my own hands by going to a gathering of the fellowship, okay, and the police come and take me away and throw me in the auditorium. That's a threat that I take on myself, and I expose my family to the burden of that threat as well. But the messaging, especially over the last 6 months, has been, it's not about you. It's about what danger you can put other people into by doing this. So so I don't want to be like a martyr for that cause, but I think it's considerable enough that it's worth being weighed. That we're not just making decisions about what we go and do based on how it might affect our health. We're being told from every high place that our decisions, my decisions, are going to impact people I don't necessarily expect them to, in ways that I can't anticipate. And that's the thing that I find so fatiguing about this entire thing. So my mother lives with me, and my wife's mother lives with me. Both of them are, I would say, compromised to the point where if either of them contracted a respiratory illness of this severity, it could be fatal. It's not because I don't believe God's sovereign over that situation, but it's because I don't wish to cause my parents harm. That I feel like I have to weigh their needs, when I go to the grocery store, when I hang out here with you guys. I have to be considerate of their needs or the risks that I might present to them. I might get COVID and I might get sick for 4 days, 5 days. I might have lifelong consequences of it, but my life probably will not be shortened by it.
So that's the question: is the might the fear?
Is which might the fear?
Like, so if you lived, and it's me thinking out loud. I've not landed. So if you live in a constant state of might, what doesn't that, this might do this might do that. You don't know, right? Like, and that's true. You don't know. It could go horribly.
Did you guys build this building with cash in hand?
No.
No.
Okay. So you made an estimation. You felt confident you were going to take a risk, that you were going to take on some debt because there was a greater prize that you felt was worth the potential cost, right? You didn't know, right?
Right.
I mean, you might not have gotten the traction you needed to justify the expense. Life
There
is
might be a
full of
virus that
mights,
comes and wipes out half the church.
Or like
attendance-wise.
2006, 2007, the church that I was a part of took a huge might to build classrooms and a food pantry. And then with the housing bubble popping and half of the insurance businesses in town closing down and construction closing down, our church suffered for many, many years trying to make up that debt because the debt didn't go away, just the income.
So does it feel different because the two examples that you gave were mights and then action happened anyway? And on the other side of the might now is what is perceived as inaction. I'm not going to do this because
There's
of
no
the
such thing
might.
as inaction.
Well, I suppose it's an action in the
It's
negative.
an action. It's just action. Like saying there's no, the choice to stay home is an action.
Yeah, I say everything we do is a risk. Every time I get in the car, there is a chance I won't return. I mean, there could be a drunk driver, or a stop. I mean, there's all kinds of things that could happen. Every time I get on a plane, it might not land.
Well, so I think in the context of, I mean, whatever, just call it for what it is. In the context of the coronavirus, like I actually think that is what you're up against. I think you are, you've got peripherals where we're just overcome by fear of the concept.
Okay.
Like just as a concept, it is fearful. That is not a rational fear. It's just fear because the conceptually something like this that you cannot control can otherwise dominate your life. However, I think you also have broad buckets. Like most people are trying to do the exact thing that Sean is talking about, which is like, what's the reasoned thing here? Like based upon the information I have, what is the reasoned reaction? What is the likelihood of harm to me or others based upon the behavior I take? This is the problem with the trustworthiness of, and frankly, full context of information that we're getting, is that depending on what you're listening to, depending on how much you're reading, people are coming to different conclusions on reasonableness. And we're not going to have time to get to this particular topic, but like actually that's what's interesting. We were talking a little bit about the notion of church unity, even around some things like this. And I think there does have to be a recognition that like people's level of risk like isn't as arbitrary as I'm afraid or not afraid. I think a lot of this comes down to people trying to make reasonable decisions based upon authority that is inconsistent.
Conflicting.
Yeah, I mean, at best, conflicting.
No, I might be misunderstanding what you're saying, and correct me if that's the case, but when we're talking about church unity, the only authority that's really relevant is the authority of the pastors over the church and the authority of the Spirit that is leading them. I don't mean to like
hit me with the relevant. So
Jesus
how does that
this.
play out relevant?
Well, when people, I think the thing I'm struggling with.
You're gonna have to snuggle up to that microphone, Covington.
Sorry, dude. The thing I'm struggling with is people not trusting the authority of the pastors of their church to make good decisions. This unfortunately cuts in both directions. If there's only two to measure, people not trusting that the pastors are trusting the sovereignty of God. That's one cut. Or the other cut is people not trusting the pastors to care enough for the people to make difficult decisions about mandates or whether or not to meet or whatever, whether to cancel this program or that, initiative.
So isn't that so I think the difficulty in that is to say this is where the sovereignty of God stuff is a hard pill, because if I've got one pastor, like granted you're under the spiritual authority of a pastor in a finite location or conceptual location, but like our visibility isn't restricted to that, and so how can the sovereignty of God otherwise dictate Pastor X says no meet and Pastor Y says meeting with bells on? How would you expect someone to otherwise understand that? That's not at you as a. It's just what I'm asking.
I'm just
broadly.
trying to make sure I understand the question. I think my response to that is really, do you trust your pastor? Regardless of whether, your church is meeting and my church is not, there are different conditions. Ben, you're the pastor of. You've got a home church with how many people?
It could be 40.
Okay, so you've got 40 people you're worried about. Dan, you've got 300?
100 probably.
Okay, so different conditions. You're meeting in a house. You're meeting in this big building on a public thoroughfare.
Yeah, I mean those are a little bit. It's an easier distinction to make for the purposes of clarity, but that isn't like I don't think it's that simple. You've got take Pathway Church here and the church across the street, same road, same group. You know what I'm saying? Like the point isn't like you can find comparisons that make that an easy distinction, and I think you can find comparisons that make it a more difficult one. The problem is like if you're going to point to something like God's sovereignty, I think that is difficult under the notion of a specific spiritual authority over a congregation to say, do I trust this person Why would God say this church over here told that pastor that we don't meet? This God told this guy that it's totally okay. Like that's the question you have to deal with. I don't know if I know the answer to that. I'm saying that's the question you have to deal with.
Why do I have to deal with that?
Well, because if you're saying that for the notion of unity, we should otherwise trust that spiritual authority. How do I understand God's dealing with the spiritual authority, which shows up in two distinct ways?
When I say church unity, I mean congregational unity. Okay, I don't necessarily mean church capital C.
Oh, you don't think that the church has to behave consistently?
No.
Okay.
No. So I'm saying that if the people of Pathway are unified, and the people of St. Timothy's, Episcopal Church or whatever it is over there,
yep,
and they're unified with their congregation, their pastor, they're meeting, and Dan says, no, we're not meeting this week because the numbers are too high. But people are peaceful and they're unified about it. The overall message to the world isn't that this church is meeting and this one isn't. It's that there's peace.
I find it hard to believe that's the message of the world. I
I'm
think
not
it should
saying
be.
that's the message they're going to all see. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I guess my point is that's the achievement, though, isn't it?
I like that each congregation is in a place. I mean, because we all have some distinctives, and that's why we're in different congregations in the first place. But in that community of believers, they're like, yeah, we're all in one heart and mind in this.
The trouble comes when you guys start pointing fingers across the street and going, "Why are you being such jerks about it?"
Oh, but that's fun.
That's when
like
the world
in our
starts
church,
to pick
I was
us
actually
apart.
quite impressed with how people came to a peace about things. Like we've not pushed masks at all. We've said, hey, if you wear them, great. If you don't, whatever. Until about maybe it's 3 weeks ago, we said, you know what, we're really going to strongly encourage that. We're not going to sell it and demand it, other than in the kids area, which is in a smaller space. It's like you got to have them there, but not anywhere else. And in our leadership, we said we're going to start wearing masks. Because it wasn't because we're afraid of the virus or blah, blah, blah. It was because people work for places that are afraid of the virus. And if I'm with them and I don't have a mask, they have to take 2 weeks off.
Right.
Not but whether they get sick or not. It's just like, nope, now they've got to. So I'm basically helping their employment and not lose work. Oh, okay, I'll wear a mask for that. And like everybody was like, okay, we'll do it for that. It wasn't like whatever the things we're arguing over masks and not over, in society right now, that like it eliminated everything. We said, okay, if that's going to help you in your job, I'll wear a mask. And
right.
So people are wearing masks.
Yeah.
And it's not become like a big deal. So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting to see that unfold because I'm not mask.
I mean, are people causing a big problem about this? I guess I'm out of the loop.
I know in churches it is a
like
big deal.
there's infighting on pulling the trigger on we're going online this week. We got too much risk going on, or hey, we're gonna meet next week. What do you want to do? And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there are people
That's
who feel like
unfortunate.
the church has completely abdicated moral authority by failing to meet, by not meeting. Okay. There are other folks who feel like the church has abdicated moral authority by persisting in meeting against the standards that are being sort of established by science and culture for good health and responsibility. And those are both really active components all across the church.
I guess I don't struggle with that. I mean, if we're gonna call it for online this week, we'll go online this week. We're gonna call it for meet this week, we're gonna meet this week.
That's the goal that I would hope that any church would have. Fortunately, that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I get the notion. I think that continues. Well, I don't think we have to flesh it out here, but it continues to bypass, I think, a reasonable macro question. Whereas, how can there be such differences within how the capital C church interacts with that question? Because unfortunately, St. Timothy's Episcopalian isn't generally the representation people are taking in, and so the notion of the reaction of the church to governmental authority, the reaction of the church to notions of protection, the reaction of the church to China, where they meet in the presence of danger versus we don't meet in the presence of danger. And that's too simplistic of a notion, but it's how people think of the question. And so I think it does continue to bypass that. I don't think it's fair to act like that doesn't exist and that the inconsistency doesn't require some level of explanation.
I think there's a fairly common inflation of our church life and our sense of this being God's country, or
I mean, I don't believe that at all. I think the question persists regardless of that.
But don't you? I mean, that comes from somewhere.
No, ignore the fact where we live. The question is like if how can groups of people who fall under the same broad king have two separate reactions to the exact same circumstance?
I think it depends. It goes back to the local congregation, because some churches are full of older people with more sickly people, and you're just going to be more cautious. Like, I'm the old guy here, so like everybody's young and they're like, they don't care, you know. It has more to do with that. Like our 20-somethings, they could give a rip. Interestingly enough, when we reinstated our senior meals where we feed the neighborhood and senior citizens come in, they were all like, take your stupid mask off, because we're going to mask up for you. You know, we want to be really cautious. And they were the ones saying, we went through polio. We don't care.
Right.
And we're like, okay. You know, we still wear a mask for them. But in some congregations, people have more health issues. They're going to be more conscious. The larger churches have more people that will spread more quickly. You know, a church of 100 to 300, they like. I finally know somebody who has COVID.
I mean, Mike had.
Who's had it. Yeah, I mean,
we didn't have a show for a few weeks, Mike.
It's like I assume.
I was like nobody. Then August 1, like, oh my gosh, everybody.
Yeah.
So I've known. I mean, there's a small handful now. That is the last 3 weeks have gone. But it's only been in the last. Like my brother's had it.
I got the Rona.
Yeah, Nathaniel had it.
Can you look
All right.
Here?
Like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. See?
So I think a lot of it's. I mean, this is going to sound kind of cheesy, but it's. I think there's a degree of like regional culture to it that you have to take into account. Like, and I want to be. Different regions just respond to governmental authority or whatever in just vastly different ways. There are some people who are very fastidious and it's like, oh, you know, oh dear. And there's others who are just like, what? Say what? You know, and they just, you know, I think I've said everything I need to say right there. There's just people respond to being told things differently, and there can be whole cultures formed around that. And even in a city as the size of Des Moines, I would say there are some significant differences between people on the west side, people on the east side, people on the south side. You know, they're just like they take that with a different stride.
Where you work has a lot to do with it too. I mean, like I've noticed people in bigger corporations and education are like frightened. Just from my experience, and people who like maybe are personal business people or whatever doing other type of jobs aren't nearly as. That's just my observation of, and part of it is how they're educated within like the corporation, or we have people who haven't come for months because their jobs won't let them. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't leave the state. Blah 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 blah. They just made them prisoners at home, and. I mean,
but don't some of those reasons isn't that a problem, right?
Yeah.
If you don't want to come on personal intention, or the pastor decides we're not going to have it, right? These are things. But like, someone says, "Hey, you work for me. I don't want you to go and meet with your people," and you say, "Yeah, that sounds right." Right? In any other situation, would you let that pass? No. Does there sound like there could be any commendation from King Jesus in Revelation for a guy who goes, I see what you did at first. You used to meet together and be the people. And then your boss said, I don't want you to go.
Right.
If that is truly the reason, that feels wrong. Now, if you don't want to go because of
that's where I'm struggling.
Other aforementioned reasons, okay.
Okay, but wait a second. I mean, I get that, but like God's not going to just. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what God's not going to do. I stopped. but you are responsible for like the well-being and the care of your family. And if you just quit your job tomorrow, I'm pretty sure your wife would be
Says
very
the guy
upset.
that was making the idols of Artemis, and Paul shut it down.
Right. Yeah.
He had a legit argument, right? He's like, hey man, I make these idols. You can't chase all the idol worship out of here because this is how I feed my family. And Paul still shut it down. That's the example I have of that. That's exactly the example I was thought of when it says, hey, your employer says you shouldn't go. And so I'm not throwing it in there as a mic drop. I'm throwing it in there as that's the thing that came to mind.
I would have a hard time continuing to work at a place who tried to control my life that much. But that's me, and that's easy for me to say when I'm not making, $150,000 a year, and
Sure.
they're saying, hey, we own you, and you're like,
it's not about the quantity of money you're making. It's about your family's reliance on the livelihood, isn't it?
I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying because I'm not there. I can't tell you how. In my heart, I would say I'd be looking for a new job like immediately.
But would you quit the job you had?
Oh, not until I had a new job.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't. I think we can't.
I didn't hear Mike advocating that. I didn't like spit in their face and walk out. But
No,
like I think
I did not advocate that.
But now that you mentioned it,
I'm saying I think it's worth thinking about. Like we always talk about sitting on a table with Jesus on one side and you on the other, and it says what's on the table for you, and I think that we can. Your family's comfort and livelihood. First of all, if I'm quitting a job on the basis that they will not allow me to meet with other people, am I assuming that God is going to bail on me and not be the king that I thought he was, and not be the father that he promised to be, who gives gifts to his children, and go, I see what you did, Mike. You were trying to be faithful to me, but in getting rid of the idol worship and, say, skipping our Sunday gatherings that I've asked you to do. But you quit the job, you idiot. I'm bailing. That don't sound like a character of God thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
That don't sound like God's character in the way that he deals with his kids. It does. We're so afraid of a loss of comfort. Like God would never ask me to quit a job because of him. And like that's flat not true, right? Like there's piles of Christians where God says, yes, continue dying. You will continue dying until people know me.
we talked about this with remember Boo was working for a bouncer. He was a bouncer.
Yeah.
And like it was like that's how he provided for himself. It's how he had paid for his medication. Like it's how he ate. But it wasn't a good environment for him. Like he shouldn't have been in that. Like it's not a good persistent environment. It puts him in by the wrong people. It does the wrong things to his ego. It puts him in bad environments. Because it paid for his medication, is that the reason we go, hey, you shouldn't quit that job? Like I don't know that it's that simple. I don't think it's as simple as yes, but it provides all kinds of things.
No,
provides.
I agree with that. I think I'm just looking for something more nuanced than, well, they said I can't go to church, so I quit. Now I want to know, well, what's church?
and that's legit too. Yeah.
Now I want to know is like, if I can't go to my John MacArthur church with 6,000 other people, am I missing church? See, that one's got me rubbed a little bit funny.
What was the alternative?
Well, in California, basically, they told MacArthur, they said, you can't meet. And he said, no, we get to meet because this is the church. And my red flags were like, hold up, bro. Is this the church because you're in the pulpit? Is that what makes this church? Or is it possible for church to happen if you're not in the pulpit?
Like the church in China went underground. They just didn't meet in large auditoriums.
Said
they
we're
met in
splitting up
homes.
amongst 15, 20
Yeah.
buildings.
Yeah.
Here we
So
go.
I'm like,
Here's
if
what
your
we're gonna
boss
do.
is telling you can't go to your Lutheran Church of Hope because there's 6,000 people there, you're like, cool. Well, can I still meet with these 10 people?
Right.
Is
right.
that the
you
church
find a
still?
way. You find a way.
You know what I'm saying? So I guess I'm just
I agree with that. Like, yeah, there's no
looking for more nuance, I think, is all.
I mean,
yeah,
doesn't
it's-
that just slap the face of the thing you said earlier? Like you got to trust the pastor. MacArthur says we're having it, and you're like, you're being
No.
ridiculous, MacArthur.
I'm saying, well, look, he's getting himself into a political
No, I think he's a fool.
and civil
in this area, yeah.
argument with the state of California, and it's ultimately been very difficult for his church. I'm not saying that.
Actually, the
his
last I heard, they
people-
were doing just fine, and I think they had like 3 cases total. I actually think that worked
yeah,
out.
it's been crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that worked out in his favor. I didn't appreciate how he went about it, frankly, but just brass tacks of it, I actually don't think that turned out too bad.
Okay. Well, I haven't followed it closely enough to, I guess, make a strong argument. But my point isn't that people shouldn't have followed him. My point. No, it's not. It's not the same thing. I take issue with what he did, and kind of like what Ben was just saying. But I'm not necessarily saying that people in his church should have given him grief or revolted against him as a result of it.
So I think that gets to my point. Is like I think it's that like the macro question is a harder one. I think it's answerable. I think to some of Sean what you were saying, and some I think Dan what you were saying is that like situations are different. Like this is the basic premise of which the governor went for. Like, here's the broad guidelines. Sort this out. Be reasonable. Use your situation and think about it wisely. Whether we have the capacity to do that well is an entirely different question. Some of that we owe to Jesus to explain ourselves is why we're not using our thought process in a reasonable fashion. So like I think there is certainly an argument to be made that there should be unity from within a church. I think it is the burden of the pastor to have taken these things in consideration and led his people wisely. And I don't think it creates any value to be the staunch guy on either side pointing fingers at the church across the street. I think that the MacArthur question, along with the other things we're talking about, I think points to that macro question, which is how could it be so different? How could some people shut down things completely in the same general area and say this is what God would have wanted? And then you got a guy who says, look, we're going to meet, and the church we have to meet. And
we have to keep meeting in the way we've always met. Isn't that what it comes down to?
That's the thing.
Right? What it comes down to is it's got to look the way that I want it designed or the way that it's always been. You're not even trying to be flexible here, right? Like I don't know. In that example, I'm usually for meeting. There's very little that makes me say, hey, we should not meet, right? Paul says meet. God says meet. We meet in whatever capacity that we have to continue to meet. And sometimes that looks like online, sometimes that looks like outside by a fire, sometimes that looks like breaking up in groups or whatever, right? But we meet. We figure out a way to meet. And so like to fold your arms and go, well, we're going to meet and we have to meet in this specific way. Otherwise it's not meeting and now we have a problem. That doesn't seem to be given with the flexibility that God gave both your mind and spirit, right?
Yeah.
When I was in China in 1994, I met Samuel Lamb, who is a house church pastor. Of course, everybody's house church pastors there. They have a church of 1,200 people, or they did at the time. He had him personally served like, 20-ish years of hard labor because of his faith. They did not meet all at once. It's a small house, smaller than the house I live in. But they had services multiple times a day throughout the week.
Yeah.
So services, how we would call it services. They had gatherings where people would come. So it was the same sermon he would preach all week long. But that's how they did it. They still had all those people that were discipled and they met, but they didn't have a big building because that would be a big red flag, for the communist China to knock it down. So yeah, they still managed to meet,
And that's the biggest part. And I don't know, John, if this is kind of where you're getting at. I really struggle, like as we think about the definition of church. I cannot shake this notion that it seems to persist in the behavior of God's people that there is something about being physically there, and like there's interesting conversations around. Can you have people who are church members who are only online, right? Is that a thing? Is that a membership when their only interaction is online? Does it cost the church anything? Is there any indication or implication of if you had to persist in an online environment for an extended amount of time? Now, do I think the church is destroyed? No, I don't think it's that fickle. But like I just cannot shake this thing that feels like there is something about being physically present. But to that extent, it doesn't require that you got to put 40 people in a living room. There's nothing about that. If physical presence is a value, but it is far less risky to do it in groups of 6 or 8, and to keep those groups the same, so that you've limited your exposure of something that we are as humans trying to digest. And frankly, because there's so much information about there, like I think reasonable people are coming to reasonably different conclusions about things. Can we do our best to walk safely in those environments? Yeah, I think that's totally an option. I think we'd be foolish not not to do our best in that type of thought process. And so, but I think that's where it's a different conversation to me. It's back to the visit where you live. If this feels like a visitation, we're going to stop here temporarily. But this isn't our new reality, then I don't really have an issue. If it's this is where we're going to live, this is actually what has changed, and we have to posture differently or rethink how we're going about things. That causes me bigger pause, because then the question is like, is that notion just romantic? Like, what? It does not matter whether you have a physical presence, because there's plenty of missionaries who don't have anybody. They're getting letters. But then again, you see the church in China. And they're fighting tooth and nail to meet, to make sure that they've come together in some way or another, even if it's not all the time. And so, it just I don't know. It feels like there's something there. I just don't know.
I don't think you're wrong. I think you're absolutely right. I think that we talk about. Okay, so we have these commands. We have this command not to forsake the gathering, right, from Hebrews. We have, but we also have these messages from Jesus. John, I want to say 5, at the well, talking to the woman at the well. It says people will worship in spirit and truth, not here or there, but everywhere. They'll worship in spirit and in truth.
Sure.
And we have his affirmation that he is present, his spirit is present where how many are gathered?
That might be just a hair out of context.
I think it's got to be 29.
Yeah,
2 or 3, right? It's
specifically related to discipline in the church. I think it's out of context to pull that as if he's not present when I'm at home by myself. That just pulls context
but
for me.
My point is that the life of the church is relational, which is
Agreed.
you're going that direction. You're saying if we're not together, somehow something is missing. And I think that's absolutely true. However, I would also argue that what constitutes together is probably less glorious than we might imagine. I think that if you have a shut-in, a forgotten old woman who tunes in every weekend and is left alone, then no, she's not a member of the church. She's not being cared for by the church. However, I would say that her attendance online is not attendance in person, but when that deacon or that caring person comes just by themselves, that is the fellowship of the church, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm not arguing that. Agreed. I just don't think the question is that if you have actually it's similar to the question where I think we're asking about people working from home, and I think where people are asking about doing school online. Does it really matter? And I think it does. I think there is something tangibly about being. Now, it doesn't mean you can prescribe your ideal and then you have to live with your reality. That's true. And so if our ideal says, look, there's something about being together, we should try to be together. Okay. Hey, we can't be together. The Rona's taken over the church. 20% of the people got it. Then we won't get together. There's no reason to get together. We're gonna wait. But like, it's the shift. If there's a shift that says, because I've seen this, maybe this is, I never pronounced the guy's name right. Who's the Canadian dude? Dan? Carry somebody.
Yeah.
Dude, Mr. I've got 10 bullet points for everything every day.
New something.
Yeah, Newhoff or something. Yeah. We talked about this a while ago about the youth leaving the church, and they said that the coronavirus being kind of part of that, and was like the youth have been leaving the church forever. Yeah, and so I think it has no relevance to the particular virus problem. But like, it's like part of that was, hey man, the new reality is half of your church is going to be online. And I think to myself, I mean, you could, but I don't know. The question is that like, I feel like it costs something, but I don't know what it is. I'm talking out of ignorance. I feel that when you're costing something, I just don't know what it is.
Everything that Christ commands us to, everything that we're commanded to do in the epistles is in relationship. You know, I mean, we're commanded to be holy, but we're also commanded to bear up with one another's burdens. We're commanded, there's you guys know the 59 one another's, right? Like that's the body of what we're commanded to do. When Jesus says, a command I give you, like how many, he doesn't say that, but what, twice? And it's always love one another as I've loved you, right? So the life of the Christian, the sanctification of a Christian heart only can really happen in the context of community. That's the only way. Because then your heart's never required to serve anything other than itself.
Yeah, so I think if that notion holds true, and it does, I think the waters you're trying to wade through is like, how do we define community?
So but I guess what I'm saying is I think push back against people who say that online engagement as the only form of engagement is acceptable. No, it's not.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think it's best.
Yeah, maybe that's what I say. Like, I think if as a measure to accommodate that which is reasonable, I like it.
You remember in was it Hezekiah? I think that he dug back up the law of Moses, and then he started reading it and deciding they were going to hold the feasts and festivals, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't have enough Levites. I mean, we're just not even set up for this. No one's been following this. We don't have enough people, And like Yahweh's response was, I get it. I understand that you don't have enough Levites. Hold the festival anyway. And Hezekiah goes, hey, look, we'll train up these guys. They're not going to be Levites, but we need people to run the booths, and we need people to be able to serve us in this way, but they can't be Levites. And he had a prophet pray and ask God, look, is this going to be fine? And Yahweh's response was, yes, I see where your heart is. I see what you're trying to do. I understand you don't have enough Levites. I understand I was very clear in the law of Moses of this is a Levite's job. This is what I want people to do. And I know the situation you're in. Hold the festivals. Do it. Do it anyway. Right? And so like I think to all the points that have been made, right? God is not unreasonable. Yahweh is not a sucker. He's not a dictator. He goes, Hezekiah shows up with a complete rational,
Josiah, maybe?
Hosea? Ooh,
Josiah.
No, is
the
it
young
after
guy.
Hezekiah?
Josiah is
Maybe
the
it's
one-
Josiah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe.
I'm sorry, Josiah then. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I said the wrong one. So like I suppose the broad point is like that's a completely reasonable thing.
It might have happened more than once.
That's possible, yeah.
It's a completely reasonable thing, and Josiah / Hezekiah is scared to death. He's like, look, man, God said we can only use the Levites. What are we gonna do? Somebody check with them. I don't want to get lightninged here. We got big trouble. And Yahweh goes, yeah, you're right. You don't have enough Levites, but I want the festivals. And here's what I want. I want you to get together. I want you to do this, right? And so like it's not like we have to be so rigid in even the definition, right? Like I think all this thing is probably more fine than we're making it, and probably more Holy Spirit influence than we want to say. Like we want to organize it, we want to take control of it, we want to this, and like God will tell you. The Holy Spirit will run this thing. You just have to trust whether other people are trusting God to do it. Right? Like he's not unreasonable. He's legalistic to a certain extent for fences for you, but like not so legalistic that the intention of your heart is completely ignored and you're going to get punished if you cross the wrong line.
I mean it goes back to even if you think about the healings on the Sabbath, right? Like you're trying to meet the letter of the law and missing the heart of the law.
Okay.
And when both are applicable.
Correct.
You can actually do both. And so, yeah. So I think that's the broad point, and I think maybe this gels more than what it's feeling like in the conversation. There's just it's not a fear. I'm not going to use the word fear. This I think ties in, Mike, with what you were talking about. Is to just be cautious that you don't cede too much definition in reaction to the situation that we're in. Like, there's a difference to me in saying, look, we're going online because we can't meet. It's not safe. Or saying, you know what, 50%, that's our target. We're going to, that's our growth point online. And I'm like, I just don't, those are two different things to me. There's an intention, we're visiting or we're living. And you want to visit in that space, I think you're good. You want to live in that space, I think that changes the conversation a bit for me. And I have to pray on it. I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
I don't run that risk. We're a house church. We just don't run that risk.
Well, and that's the thing is like some of what Sean is talking about. Look, if everyone in the church was honestly praying on that same thing, I don't think we'd have near this problem, right? Like if everybody's like, God, your will be done. If we're not going to be online, if we're online this week, I get it. As long as it's fine. Unless you need me to go talk to the pastor. Unless you're giving me a word to be like, look, Bill, I feel like you're being scared and fearful, and the Lord says we're not online this week. Unless you're asking me to do that, I'm okay with whatever we're doing. What do I care, right? I get to worship with the people. We get to meet together and whatever. We'll figure this out. We're not living here. We are just visiting here. We're trying to deal with the situation.
All right. Are the people off your lawn?
Yeah, boy, that should have been a long time ago.
Yeah. All right.
I didn't bring up that other thing
Yeah.
with the Unities and the MacArthurs and whatever. I don't think that deep. I get lost in the conversation of who's and the what's.
I wanted him to eat it, to be honest. Like, I just didn't like the posturing of that.
Not at all.
However,
it felt so self-righteous,
but
didn't it?
but here's the thing: it ultimately, the insinuation wasn't correct either. The outcome, there was a lot of fear prescribed in that outcome, and it wasn't there. It didn't happen, and so I'm thinking people have to deal with the reality of both of those being the case. And like, if I didn't like, maybe I don't like how it's postured, but if the point was this isn't going to happen the way you think it's going to happen, we're not causing the same problem that LA County says we're causing, and they didn't. You can't blow by that either. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is a thoughtful conversation for thoughtful people. All right, Mike, let's do a
one advice.
Let's do one advice, and we're gonna have to split.
Yeah, he'll go. Okay, here we go. Dear, hold on a minute. Nope, Nathaniel, don't look at your watch. It's rude.
Oh, sorry.
I'm about to read a thing.
Sorry.
Dear, okay, yeah, this is lighthearted. Chuckles. Dear Life from the Path, for the last 20 years, I've been sending my 4 nieces and nephews birthday and Christmas cards with checks enclosed. They are adults now with jobs and families. How can I gently tell them that I wish to discontinue the checks in their cards? I'm ready. Step 1, do not put check in card. Step 2, mail checklist card. Step 3.
Yeah, cut anybody out of the will who mentions it.
Yeah.
What the heck?
I think as long as you Venmo the money, it's okay.
Yeah. What's the matter, Grandma? We doing Venmo this year? What's happening? PayPal? Tell me the deal. I'm 20 years old. You still owe me money? I mean, it's a sweet thing to ask, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, just explain. Hey, you guys are growing up. You know, when you were kids, I was able to do it. I'm older now. I'm on fixed income.
You're 20.
You're 20. You got a job.
Yeah. I mean, what's my $15
You should be sending
doing
me
for
money
you anymore
now.
anyway? You know, you go to McDonald's one time. Thanks, Grandma.
Right.
Yeah, and this year, in lieu of money, I'll be sending smiley faces. Love,
Yeah.
Grandma.
There you go.
It'll even look cute.
I'll be
I bet
spending
the
your
kids
money
don't
at the
even like it.
casino.
You know, a check is such a hassle.
It's
What?
not even a gift, right?
Dr.
Right.
Coupon?
What is this thing?
I got to go all the way to the bank for this?
Well, no, now you can do the digital
Yeah.
deposit where you take the picture and send it off, and presto, change it.
Oh man, to that point, I have an HSA through work, and like I paid a bunch of medical bills, and then I need to reimburse myself, and so I had him send me a check, and like the formatting of this check is in such a way that I can't deposit it online. And I was incensed. Wait, I'm like, what do I gotta mail this in like a rube?
Like I gotta go to the bank like an idiot
Dear sir.
and find a pen and sign it like a chump.
I took, I mean, no joke, 28 pictures of this check. I'm like, somehow the software is gonna recognize this, and like by the 15th picture, I'm like, I know exactly what's going on. This is an HSA company. They're not a bank. They're not used to printing checks in a specific way to accommodate these type of standards. And so like it's just there's something about the numbers in the bottom left that are like they don't have that special sign, so the software can't recognize it. Like I know exactly what the problem is. And I thought about just trying to write it in. Like I'm gonna print it myself on this check. I thought, no, then no one's ever gonna catch it. But like, I mean, I was outraged at this thing.
My rights.
I have to find a darker background.
It's got to be the lights in here.
Vanta Black.
I did. I moved to like 3 different rooms and 8 different services. I said, I will not go to the bank.
So much easier than going to the bank. Well, then you got to go during certain hours.
Yeah.
You got to put the mask on. You got to make the appointment.
Right, bankers' hours are no joke. These guys work when everyone else is working. Like I have to. It's an event. I got to take off. I got to be gone from work for 2.5 hours to go to the bank.
Yeah, you got to make an appointment
Oh,
at my
man.
bank.
I ran into that at the local post office in Pleasantville. Here's the deal: they open at 9:30. They go to lunch at 11. They take a 2-hour lunch. They come back work from 1 to like 4. That's
Oh, man.
it.
That's
like,
tight.
And at 11, right on the dots, they closing the blinds. You ain't coming in here. I mean, I think it was 11:03. I strolled in there, and they're like, "Closed. Be back at 1." I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me."
Any other advice? So everyone, thumbs up. Grandma, just do what you got to do, Granny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't even make mention of it.
Yeah,
honestly, I would just stop including the checks.
Just stop. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I'd let
me.
them gossip about you. Hey man, did you get a check this year? No man, I didn't get no check yet.
They
there.
think she's finally losing it.
Yeah, that old bird
Yeah.
stopped sending me the checks. Really? Yeah.
That's how I knew it was finally time. Grandma's finally losing it.
Yeah.
She
Stop
stopped
sending the checks. She
slipping a
always
Hamilton in
sends
there.
They always
checks.
send a check. Something funny. All right. Secular says, all you need to do is remind them, lovingly, that because they're adults now with jobs and families of their own, you would like to exchange cards on special occasions rather than send money. Many parents do this when their children reach adulthood.
I mean, that's silly. You're already exchanging cards on special occasions. You're just not including money.
Yeah.
You kind of BS that, Granny.
Yeah. I mean, I just stopped doing it. I don't think we need to make a big production out of everything. Just stop sending the money. That's it. It's done.
Yeah.
If one of them calls you on it, you'll know which one's the spoiled brat. And you're like,
That's
yeah.
what. Yeah.
Yeah,
Then
Sarah
they don't get
and
a
Tom
card.
didn't call me, but old Jim, he was right on it. Where's my check, Grandma?
I think you might have left out that 10 spot.
Yeah.
All right, man. Hey, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. If any of the show rubbed you the wrong way, which it did, give us a call or text on the complaint line, 515-517-0085. If it's specifically at Covington, hashtag the Bard if you're going to send us a text so that we know it's directed at him.
Yeah.
If
or
not,
say the Bard. That would
yeah,
be fine.
Yeah. I have the following problems with the Bard. Now, if it's not about Covington, which I've heard from you, then there's no necessary hashtag. We recognize that it's directed at us. No big deal.
Yeah.
All right. 515-517-0085. That's the live from the Bob Eisenhower live from the Path complaint line. Call or text will work. Big thanks to Sean Covington. It was great to see you back in the studio. And make sure you go check out Bill's.
Yeah.
On all your favorite streaming or digital purchase platforms. And, I mean, if you really, really beg him, if you can find his house and pound on the door sometime before 9 p.m., he might even sing it as Pope-style advice to get you off his lawn. That's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
It's a might.
It's 50-50.
It's a might,
Could happen.
but you never know if you try. In the meantime, be faithful in the means. God will handle the ends. You've been listening to Live from the Past.
Didn't hear the ring, but the feeling was profound. Something
cool, man.
old had been awakened.
I did it too early.
Something I
Too early.
had known before.
Okay, bye.
There was hope where I'd had none.